Hey, this is Tom Keifer, and you're watching and listening to LINEA ROCK.
Hi Tom, welcome back to Italy, welcome to LINEA ROCK. Always a pleasure to have you back in our country. Actually, you didn't come to Europe very often through your career. You've been to Italy, it was 2011. So was that a choice, not coming so often to our country and in Europe, or it's just happened?
Well, tours and shows get booked mainly through promoters and agents. So we want to play everywhere all the time. So whenever an offer comes through that the agents bring to us, we take it. So I'm very happy to be back here with my solo band. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get here on the solo record.
Right.
And we had an agent, and the promoters came up with a great run of dates for us here, and we're very, very happy to be here.
Okay, so back on your own, can we say that it's the way life goes? Sometimes you have to go on your own. But how do you see it? That
you talking about the solo record?
Yes.
Well, the solo record started as something that Cinderella couldn't record together at the time because we were in the middle of a lawsuit from a record deal that had gone bad. So I just started writing and recording with friends of mine in Nashville, and my wife Savannah was also involved with the writing and producing of the record. And it started off not even really being a record. It was just making some music, because I was kind of fed up with lawyers and record companies and all that with the experience that we had just, gone through with Cinderella. So, so we worked on it very slowly, just for fun and for the love of making music over a period of 9 years. And then I woke up one day and thought, wow, there could be a record here. So
it's all new music. It's not songs that you were already working at for Cinderella. It's all
some of the songs were from that record deal that went south, but there were songs that I had written, and I re-recorded them with other musicians.
This album is the proof that blues background influence in Cinderella was basically your fault.
Yeah, I think that I grew up on that sound. I grew up on Led Zeppelin and the Rolling Stones and Janis Joplin and Aerosmith and Rod Stewart. So all those artists that I grew up on, their sound was inspired by American roots music like country and blues, gospel, R&B, and I learned from that. So that's where I learned how to write and how to play music. So that's certainly my style, and I guess, as you put it, my fault. Although I'm not sure that I view it as a fault, but it's that sound in Cinderella certainly came from me. Yeah.
All right. This is a very intimate record, or actually this is the perception of it that I had. I'm talking about songs like Welcome to My Mind or You Showed Me. Is it more difficult to open your heart completely, or to write a hook, hit single? What do you think?
Well, I think when you talk about intimate, you're talking about the lyrics, maybe
lyrics,
a little more
yes, but also the mood in the sound,
Yeah. Well, some of the songs are very high energy and driving rock, but then there's other ones that come down, like the Flower Song or Thick and Thin, Ask Me Yesterday, that actually have more of an intimate sound too. But I think that lyrically, it's a very honest record, which is maybe why you perceive it as being intimate. I've always tried to write from an honest place and a real place where the inspiration comes from life.
Yeah.
I think that this one, there had been a lot of living and a lot of experiences and a lot of good times, bad times, challenges that went into the lyrics and the writing of this record. So yes, I would agree with that. And I think that's always the best place to write from, is something real.
The song A Different Light sounds like a song of hope, which come, from a bitter reflection. Which is the spark behind its inspiration? Is that about something in particular, about a momentum, or it's just general reflection?
The original inspiration was, I wrote that with Savannah, my wife.
Okay.
And she brought that title in, and neither one of us, we were kind of kicking it around in the studio one night, and I remember strumming some chords and singing, "In a Different Light." We both kind of liked that melody. And we didn't really know what the song was about at the time. It was just like, well, there's a chorus. Not sure what it's about. And then months later, I think I started working on some lyrics, and I brought them to Savannah. And, you know, I think what it ultimately ended up being about is something that I always believe in. It's like, no matter where you are in life, things can turn on a dime.
Yeah.
And you can maybe be in a bad place, and then the next day, up,
yeah.
You know, and that, you know, so if you're in that place where you're down,
yeah.
you know, stay hopeful, keep staying faith,
yes.
because, you know, I've seen in my life, and the older I get, life has its ups and downs, and I think it's difficult when you're younger, when you go through your first low point, because it's your first one, and you haven't seen it come back around.
Okay.
Right? So in the course of my life now, I've seen many highs and many lows, so you learn after many years of experiencing that when you're down here, what goes down usually comes back up. So,
okay.
but you have to. But that's also a state of mind where you have to believe that.
Okay.
So I think that's what the song is saying.
And the song "Ain't That a Beach" and "Babylon" are photographs of those wild things happening backstage during the 80s, or not? How do you say that?
Well, I think Babylon is definitely a let your hair down kind of song. Anything goes. Ain't That a Bitch is more of a, that's more that like, you know, let's go back to a song I wrote years ago, like Nobody's Fool, where you're kind of a relationship gone south,
sure.
Which is going back to the roots music that I grew up on, like the blues. You know, it's a very common theme in that music of, like, you know, there's always in popular rock music, there's the falling in love emotion,
yeah.
but then there's the falling out of love emotion, and that's what Ain't That a Bitch is. Like,
you just mentioned the Flower Song, which is a great love song, in my opinion. Better, you know, than receiving like a bouquet of roses from a man. Was that inspired by your wife and the women in your life, or from all the women that you met?
Well, the song ultimately is about finding your soulmate, and you know, it's the perspective is that there's so many, and I'm sure it's the same for women too, but from the man's perspective,
yeah.
looking around in the world, there's so many beautiful and amazing women out there, and I think that it's like really a miracle that at some point, amongst all of that, you know, all these amazing people who are out there, you gravitate towards that one person that is the one you're supposed to be with, and obviously for me that's Savannah, and so that's the sentiment of that song, is finding that one special person amongst all these amazing people that are out, you know, in the world, all these beautiful women, and finally you gravitate towards where you're supposed to be.
There's a line in the song "The Way Life Goes" saying, "The cover never reveals the book entire." That is also about your life diary?
Well, yeah, I think that the song itself is about how there's a lot of, life's full of surprises.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know what's coming, and sometimes when you think something is here, and you realize that it's not. You know, that's not what it appears to be in life, and that's just part of life. And I think that's why we chose that song to be the title track and the title of the album, because it really, that sums up so many of the lyrics on the record, and it sums up life. You know, that you never know. It's like the in Forrest Gump, when Mom tells him about the box of chocolates.
Yes. Okay.
That's, you know, that's one of my favorite parts of any movie, because it's so true. You know, you just don't know what life's going to give you from day to day, and you just got to make the best of what comes your way.
And there are two characters in the song that you mentioned, Bobby and George.
Yes.
which of those, which character, you know, in which one there's something about yourself? You're more Bobby or more George?
Well, I don't think either. They're actually real people that I grew up with.
Okay.
They're not any kind of, that's not like a metaphor for me in any way. They're actually real people that I grew up with. So.
And how is the music business different now than it was in your early days? Is your perception of it any different now?
Well, my perception is that I still love making music and I still love playing music, so that hasn't changed.
Okay.
I love touring, and honestly, touring really hasn't changed much. You know, you get on a bus with your friends and musicians that you love to play music with, and you go out and you play music for people. So that hasn't changed.
Okay.
And I still love doing that, and I love this band that I'm out with.
Okay.
We've been out almost 3 years now, and they're incredible. People as well as musicians, but the aspect of the music business that has changed obviously is the music being available online.
Okay.
Right, has affected the industry part of it, where music's not being paid for. And I think the saddest part of that is, you know, I was fortunate to come up in a time and make friends with all these wonderful fans and have success in the 80s where there was no internet and there was no issues like that. So, and as a result of that, there was a lot of money that went back into the record companies that went into developing artists. Now, it's very hard for a young artist to find a company that's going to stay with them 3, 4 albums and make sure that they have the best studios, producers, engineers, and develop them, because there's not as much money to go around. So that's something to think about the next time you're borrowing music online.
But from your point of view, you're not like a new artist. You have a career, so that changes also for you.
Well, in some ways, with the new record, it is because the you know, obviously the sales of this record are not what they probably would have been in the 80s. So that changes things dramatically in terms of just from the business aspect.
Yeah.
But obviously, I love to play music, so I just keep playing music. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I think it's important for people to realize that does affect particularly new artists, you know, who are struggling and trying to come up, because it's really nice. And like I said, I was very fortunate to come up in a time where there was plenty of money to go around, and a record company would develop and stay with an artist, and that those opportunities are fewer and further between for young up-and-coming artists, and I think that's very sad.
Yeah. You mentioned your wife, and we all know that couples in rock, you know, can be strong and tough in a way or another. Did you ever regret of having your wife Savannah in your band and on tour? Could it be like a double-edged weapon having your wife with you, or you leave it, you know, as a positive thing?
It's never been. No, she and I work really well together writing.
Okay.
We work well together in the studio, and having her on tour and being part of the band has just been amazing.
Okay.
It's really great.
And
she's not here tonight because she had surgery a few weeks ago, so she did not come to Europe with us, and we are all really missing her badly. She had a appendix.
Okay, but she's okay now.
She's okay, but it's been really weird for us because we've been like this family, all of us, for 2.5, almost 3 years, and it's very strange to have not, one person missing, especially for me.
Yeah, I can imagine. And Paul Taylor is a member of your band now, and he used to be in Winger back in the days, where you were, considered part of the same scene, you and Winger. There was any kind of rivalry between, you and him back in the days? How did you first met him? How did it work?
Actually, Cinderella toured with Winger a couple of times, and we've always been very good friends. We've always gotten along quite well.
So you know him very well since
I've known
back
Paul for
in the
years
days.
and years.
And how did you end up, working together and being in the same band?
Well, actually, he came in 2012 to do the last Cinderella tour. Was in 2012, and we needed a new keyboard player. And I just called him up one day and said, "Do you want to tour with Cinderella?" And he was like, "Sure." So he did the tour was Cinderella, and then the following year is when my record was released, and I put together
the band.
This band, and he was just kind of like a natural to me, you know. It just, you know, called him up and said he wanted to do the solo thing too, and he said yeah. So he's been here ever since.
Recently, Rolling Stone made, you know, the list of the 50 greatest hair metal albums of all time. And Cinderella are in there with Night Songs, position 18, and Long Cold Winter, position 10. Are you proud of it, or hair metal is a definition that you some way consider offensive or limiting, you know, like the kind of all potatoes and no meat kind of thing?
I think that the all potatoes, no meat is a very accurate way to describe the way that term hair metal is usually perceived.
Sure.
And as a result of that, I don't really like being lumped into that, and I think most of the bands from the 80s, I just think it's a ridiculous term. I think that it was a term that was came about because of the image of the day, but not just because of the image of the day, because every decade has an image. If you look at the 70s bands, they all have a look. The bands in the 60s had a look. Every you know, even the 90s, they had the look, right? The Doc Martens, you know, so it's like, are they the flannel shirt guys, you know? So it's kind of ridiculous that we all got lumped together, considering that all those bands had a very unique sound. The styles of the vocalists and the style of the writing, from Poison to Def Leppard to Cinderella to Tesla to Guns N' Roses, all very different. So if you close your eyes and forget the look, right? Yeah. You've got some pretty unique sounding bands. So what I was pleased to see in the Rolling Stone thing that you again, I don't like being lumped into that, and usually because they don't talk about the music. But when I read what they wrote about Long Cold Winter, I was very pleased, because it's one of the first times I've seen one of those articles that called it hair metal. And they actually said something flattering and quite accurate about the music. So that made me, I was proud of that. So I thought they wrote a very nice thing about Long Cold Winter. So thank you, Rolling Stone. That's for closing your eyes and listening to the music.
Fantastic. And when you look at the cover of Night Songs, do you get mixed emotion? You know, since what you just told me about the fact, you know, that you had a strong image look, and that was, you know, the first thing that you focused on when you saw the record. So when you look at it, you still feel it as something positive, good, or maybe you would do it differently now?
No, I don't feel. I feel like, again, it was like the look of the day, and like I said, in the 70s, bands had a look to it. In the 60s, they did. I've seen pictures of Eric Clapton where he had hair out to here that he probably looks at now and says, you know, that's you know. So it's like, I don't regret anything. I don't think that we are the reason that the term hair metal was developed. I think the industry developed it by, again, putting more importance on a look than a sound. And
the fact of you having the second album all white with just, you know, the band logo and the title was a reaction to that, in a sense, or
no?
Not?
It was to go with the title, Long Cold Winter, Snow, White. Honestly, that's what it was. Because hair metal wasn't a term yet, right? It wasn't. So it wasn't in reaction.
It wasn't
to that.
A message, you know. From,
they weren't calling it hair metal. You know, that was just because it was called Long Cold Winter, and we just thought snow, white, bright. You know, so. But yeah, no, I don't. You know, look, the look on the cover of every band has multiple sides to their music, to their look, to their, you know, we're people. So one day you might look like the cover of Night Songs, the next day you might look like something different. And I think most artists that I've talked to, they feel like not only image-wise, but even sonically or production-wise on their first record, they feel that, I've talked to many artists who feel the same way, that they weren't really captured entirely as to who they are, because you're new to it, right? So you grow and you develop as you go, and you find yourself, and to be pigeonholed to one picture is kind of silly, right? So, and I know that's silly, so I don't regret it, you know.
You've been defined like a combination, of Brian Johnson bite with Janis Joplin yearning. Is this still something that you feel a definition of yourself which is complete, or now you feel something different about your approach?
Well, I have so many influences. Certainly Janis Joplin was one. Brian Johnson was one much later in life, because he came on the scene. I had formed a lot of musical things before I even knew who Brian Johnson was. But I do love Brian, and he certainly was an influence. But that sound initially came from Robert Plant. His upper register is what I started imitating when I was a kid. And then I heard Janis Joplin, and then I heard Rod Stewart, and I would say that, and Steve Marriott. I would say that those singers in my early years when I was a kid were the ones that helped me develop that sound. And then I did hear Brian Johnson when Back in Black came out. I was like, wow, this guy's cool too. But that was many years later. Robert Plant was first, and then Janis and Rod Stewart, and then I got into Steve Marriott too.
And those are the same influences today for you?
Well, you're always being inspired by people. I hear new singers all the time that inspire me. Bruno Mars, I love. Lizzie Hale is an amazing singer, and her voice is very inspiring to me. When I hear something that is vocally great, it inspires me. And what you're describing right now is more my vocal influence, but obviously I've got influences on guitar. I've got writing influences that a lot come from the Stones and Mick Jagger. So there's a lot of facets, but yes, vocally, those would be the people that past and present, and a whole lot in between. So I love the singer in Jet also, and Buck Cherry as well, if you want some newer singers that I love. So
last couple of questions. You had some health problems with your throat, with your voice through the years, but you proved yourself as a true trooper. You never gave up, and working hard to retrain your voice, and you won, basically. Which was the lesson that you learned from that experience that you want to share maybe with your fans? And is the song Mood Elevator about this experience? Or?
Well, that's two questions. So, the voice, what I learned from the voice is probably more than anything is patience, faith, and it's like we were talking about the song A Different Light. Anything's possible, and you may be here one day and the next day you're here. That requires work, and it required years of patience on my part, because it's not an exact science to retrain your vocal cord. I kept wanting it to be a medical condition that they could just give me a pill or a surgery to fix, and you can't cure a neurological condition. I was told I'd never sing again, and I just decided I wasn't going to take no for an answer. So that goes back to the mindset thing that we discussed with that song, that you take what life gives you and you can either let it get you down, or you can say, this isn't going to defeat me. And I think that it all comes down to your thoughts.
Okay.
So, and I feel very fortunate to have been able to overcome the condition that I had. I was very fortunate to have some amazing teachers to work with, and I'm grateful that I can still sing. The song Mood Elevator is, Welcome to My Mind and Mood Elevator are kind of those songs go together. Okay. Welcome to My Mind was probably very reflective of the mid-90s, when I had lost my voice, lost my record deal, my band was breaking up, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, and I was going crazy. Depression, anxiety, stress, all that. And that's kind of described in that song. And then Mood Elevator, I went to a lot of shrinks and spent a lot of time on the couch talking to people, and they all had a pill that was going to fix you. And that's what Mood Elevator is about, really, about how like Prozac and those kind of things have become very socially acceptable. It's like, just take a pill and you'll be happy. Well, I tried them all, you know, at doctor's advice, you know, oh, try this one, you'll be fine. Try this one, you'll be fine. And I got to tell you, I don't think there's any pill that's going to fix it. You got to fix it. It's right here.
Inside your heart, your mind. Yeah.
It can be a leg up. They can be a leg up, but you know, but that mood elevator is kind of a tongue-in-cheek laugh at society's, you know, happy pills and that kind of thing. So kind of related to the voice because it was. I drew on the memories of what I was going through back when that all hit me. Okay. Yeah, it's very well. It's all related. You know, all the lyrics on the record are pretty related to. You know.
Okay, very last thing for today. Is there any hope to see Cinderella back together? You know, the tough question, but
we have no plans.
No plans at all.
I'm going to do a follow-up for The Way Life Goes. We're touring with this band through probably next summer.
Okay.
I'm starting to gather some song ideas and, you know, trying to get some things together to do a follow-up.
So next step will be a next record, and will you come back for the festivals in Europe?
No plans for Cinderella. Okay. Yeah, we'd love to come back here next year.
Yeah,
we'd love to. We've had a great run so far.
Okay. So. Thanks so much for your time, Tom.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, and hope to have you back in Italy very soon.
We'd love to.
Thank you.
Thank you.